Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Chillin with the Villain. Today's episode, we celebrate 24 years, 24 long years, the anniversary of what many people consider the worst wrestling pay-per-view of all time, Heroes of Wrestling. But was it really that bad? That's the question that myself and Sam answer today. This may be Heroes of Wrestling, but I am the villain of wrestling. Of course, the villain, Marty Skull. And joining me today, as always, he is my co-host. He is the man that I force to watch wrestling every single week. And I'm not sure we can really call this show wrestling, but I don't want to give any spoilers. Of course, I'm talking about the king of the tables, Samuel Scott. Sam, how bad is your headache from watching this show?
Mate, you say you forced me to watch these pay-per-views, and I guess technically that's true. But, I mean, sometimes it's a pleasure, right? Depending on what we watch. This was not one of them. The pleasure came as soon as I finished watching, then I just felt like a release. We'll put it that way. But sometimes it's a pleasure. This, we'll see.
Well, we don't want to give too much away, but yes, today's episode, we will be covering Heroes of Wrestling from October 1999. I'm sure many of you have heard about this show before, and you want to hear what our opinions are of this show. But if you haven't heard about this show before, then, well, I guess you're in for a bit of a treat. We weren't in for a treat, but you guys listening to us and what we thought about it, I think will be, because yeah, this was quite the show. And speaking of quite the show, Sam, I just got back from both Canada and Mexico where I was wrestling
Wow.
at the weekend. Yeah, Friday night in Sudbury, Canada, and then Saturday night in Tijuana, Mexico for AAA.
Jeez
So
Louise. Bit of a North America tour.
I guess you could call it that. Yes, honestly, I'm obviously very used to doing a lot of traveling and everything else, but I do feel as if when I tell my schedule to people that don't do this, like my mother, for example, they're just like, "Oh boy, how would you do that?" And I'll be honest with you, this one was a pretty tough one because the show I did in Canada was like 4 hours drive from the airport. So it was a case of land keep my days confused. Land Friday morning in Toronto, do like a 4 to 5 hour drive to the show, wrestle on the show, and then my flight the next morning was back out of Toronto, but my flight was at 6 a.m. So I legit
So a
had
4-hour drive back?
Yeah, so I pretty much did the show and then got straight back in the car to go to Toronto airport to then fly the next day to San Diego. To Tijuana. So yeah, it was quite the weekend. And I got home and I actually didn't feel too bad. And I actually had some energy to try and catch some of the AEW Wrestle Dream pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And then the next day I got up and I ran errands and I did a whole bunch of stuff I needed to do. Obviously, this podcast is a lot of work. So if you're listening, please give us a 5-star review. That would be nice to help the podcast, help the algorithm. Did a bunch of my work, and then 3:00 hit on Monday, and I was like, boom, it just hit me. And I crashed, and I actually took a nap for the first time in many years because I'm not.
That is not like you.
It's not, no.
Did you watch the paper? Did you manage to catch it?
I watched most of it. I saw quite a bit of it. I caught up in a bit like during the week. But of course, the big news coming out the show, Edge or Adam Copeland, the rated R superstar, has joined AEW All Elite Wrestling. Adam Copeland is All Elite. Did you happen to catch this at all, Sam?
I caught the news. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I didn't catch the pay-per-view. What do you think?
I'm surprised. I knew watching it, you could tell, because the rumors were very heavy about Edge coming to AEW. And then on the day or a few days before, I think the WWE took the Edge out of their opening and they took him off the website and everything else. And it kind of felt like,
really?
They wouldn't do this unless he was going somewhere else. So that kind of made it all very obvious. And then when they said the pay-per-view that Christian was wrestling Darby Allin in the main event, it was like, oh, okay. Yeah, they're definitely having Edge debut. I think the bigger surprise is, well, maybe not so much a surprise, but Edge, he somehow had his rated R superstar name. I guess the WWE let that fall through the cracks in terms of the trademark. They just didn't renew it or whatever else. And he also had his On This Day, I See Clearly entrance music. And I guess that was not a WWE made song. It was a band, and Edge is friends with the band, and they get to say on who gets to use it. So the
Cool.
fans in attendance in Seattle, I believe, they kind of got the full Edge experience.
Nice smooth transition for him then, if he gets to keep as
yeah,
much as he can. Yeah.
And I think overall, though, I think it's definitely good. It's definitely exciting. I think the more of these sort of trades are probably going to keep happening, because obviously for the longest while it's been sort of guys leaving the WWE and then ending up in AEW. But then, of course, the last year or so, we saw Cody jump to WWE.
Yeah.
And now the last week or two, we spoke about it. I think last week, Jade Cargill going to WWE. So it's kind of very reminiscent of the era of wrestling that we all
love. Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
and he seemed pretty excited to be there. He seems pretty happy. That's really good to see. So
yeah, I think
he's going to do well.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's going to do great. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. So, of course, obviously, AEW just lost CM Punk. What was it? A few months ago, and he was probably arguably the biggest star in AEW. And so now it kind of feels like they've replaced CM Punk with Edge. I wonder. There's been a bit of a debate, I think, online, like who's the bigger get between Edge and CM Punk. From your perspective, who would you say was a bigger deal to AEW?
I'd say CM Punk, but I don't know. In some ways, I feel like if he just transitions straight there, like Edge did from WWE to AEW, without this weird transition phase where he tries UFC and tries other ventures that he fails, I think it would have more of an impact. I think that helps put the edge to Edge. But for me, I still would say CM Punk. What about you?
Well, you could argue the other way, the fact that Punk was done and gone from wrestling for 7 years, and everyone assumed that he was done forever, and then he, comes out of his retirement as such and joins AEW. So, but then again, yeah, the idea of just jumping pretty much straight from WWE to AEW, pretty big deal as well. So I don't really think it's fair to compare them. I guess time will tell how it goes and how it does. Like, I'm not a big believer in just like one big name or one big superstar sort of changing the course of the company in terms of, like, I'm sure they'll do good business with Edge, but I don't think it's a case of they get Edge and all of a sudden they're beating WWE in the ratings or anything like that. I think there's much more to it than just star power. But, I don't believe I've ever met Edge before, maybe just in passing. But like you said, he seems really excited for it. And I think the knowledge that he can give to the dressing room, I'm sure he can be a locker room leader. And I'm just sure just the positive energy he seems to be bringing in. I think it can only be good for AEW. So it seems almost like a fresh start for AEW. So it'll be interesting to see. It will be interesting to see. Sam, last week we did our Q&A episode and people seem to really enjoy that. A good old Q&A. We went off script. We always review classic wrestling shows. And last week we didn't do that. We decided to do a Q&A with myself and Sam. We get questions sent in all the time. So you know what? Let's just do an episode.
Let's just get through the backlog.
Bash a bunch
put a dent into it. Yeah.
Yes.
We didn't get through it.
We didn't get through it. We tried to answer as many as possible. So we do appreciate everyone that sent in. But you know what? We're going to try our hardest to get through as many of your questions as possible. So we're going to answer a few questions now. And I have no idea what Sam's going to ask me, because this was a part of Ask Marty Anything. Doesn't mean I'll answer. Well, it does, of course. That's what we're here for, providing a service for the people. Give us a 5-star review.
Yeah, all we ask for in return is a simple 5-star review on the Apple Podcast Store. And in return, we will answer anything. I mean, we will anyway, so I don't know why I'm trying to do that. I'm Ben Grimm asks, I like this question, what's a weird YouTube community you're into? For instance, I'm into van life vids.
Oh, that's interesting. I have watched a few van life vids. I could not do that. Could you live in a van, Sam?
I think I could, yeah, for about a month. So in
Month.
essence, I could have a holiday, is what I'm saying. Yeah,
You've
yeah, for
asked me
sure.
so many times to go camping with you, and I'm like,
I know,
brother,
and you won't.
put me in a hotel. I don't want to. I just want to be comfortable as I get older. I'll go for a nice drive. Um, wow, weird. Okay, what was the question again? Weird YouTube communities?
Yeah, any like weird or niche, I guess, YouTube communities that you're into.
Not necessarily niche. I do like watching like home decor and home. What would you call it? Decoration
Interior design
videos,
and decoration.
interior
Yeah.
design. You know, I'm into the interior design. You probably can't tell looking at my messy office, but the rest of the house is lovely. So I really enjoy watching those videos. And
Hmm.
that's the thing with YouTube. It's kind of that's one of the phrases I use a lot, which is just YouTube for everything. YouTube for everything. If I ever have a problem, you're troubleshooting, whatever it is, it's like just look on YouTube and you can find out everything. So I wanted to make my house nice. What did I do? Just watch. I was going to say a few videos, but like hundreds of videos about home, decor and everything else. And yeah, I kind of gained that skill. And I've also, kind of a similar vein, I've also watched a lot of videos on how to paint. Um, and I've actually taught myself how to paint canvases, I guess, and put art up in my house. I'm not an expert by any means, but enough to where I've shown people and they've assumed that I've bought the painting from a store when actually I painted it. And that basically came down to when I wanted to put some art on my walls and I went to the stores and they were all like $1,000 for a large canvas. I'm like, what? I'm not
Right.
doing that. I could paint this myself. Let me just find YouTube. So I enjoy those videos as well. But you know me, I'm a massive wrestling geek. I'm pretty much watching wrestling videos the majority of the time.
You like your workout drama videos, like health and
Work.
fitness drama.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, I watch a lot of fitness videos and like not just fitness, but like diet videos as well, and sort of different recipe videos, that stuff. Every now and then, when I'm feeling kind of unmotivated about the gym or diet, like I just sort of binge watch a whole bunch of sort of fitness videos, and it kind of gets me back in the mood, So, like I said, YouTube for everything.
This isn't a weird community, but have you seen Stevie Richards' YouTube channel or channels? He has a couple.
Oh, he does. I've seen a
Yeah,
few of
yeah.
his. I've seen a few of his videos. They seem to be super popular. Yeah, like what was it? You sent me one the other day, right?
Oh yeah, so he started off with a Stevie Richards fitness channel. That's his main channel, reviewing like home gyms, that sort of thing. And it's kind of that's not my bag, but he's kind of captivating, isn't he? He's got good charisma and he explains things very well. So I just watched that, and then he had a spin-off channel, Stevie Richards Wrestling Analysis, where he watches maybe something that went wrong and gives
Hmm.
his opinions on what happened, or maybe what went right, or just an amazing segment from something. He just gives his punditry on it, and it's really interesting. He's a really good YouTuber, so I would definitely recommend subscribing to at least one of those if you haven't, Martin.
Yeah, no, I saw Stevie Richards. It's funny because the videos for me, as I obviously am a wrestler already and wrestled for years, they're not like for me personally. It's not really like a lot of stuff I don't know. I'm trying to say this without sounding like big headed, but I think he's done such a good job in, like you said, it's not a niche, but it almost is. Like there isn't a video, there isn't a channel like that on YouTube, and there he is. Like I'm going to break down these wrestling moves for people that don't know, and people that don't know find it fascinating and so interesting. So
Yeah,
I
I
think he's
definitely
doing
do.
a great job there. I tell you, the other one I've been noticing on YouTube is from out of nowhere, Maven has
Yeah,
become like a
Maven's
YouTube
just.
star.
I just wake up one day, go on YouTube, in my recommended. There's freaking Maven of all people, and he's just blowing up like
Blowing
crazy.
up. Dude, I saw one the other day. It had been like an hour or 2 hours or something like that. And he already had 70,000 views. It was pretty insane. Pretty insane. So, yeah, big fan of Maven. And I actually really enjoy his channel. He's putting out good content. So, good for him.
Definitely. Have you met him?
Maven? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so.
I felt like if you've met him, you'd already be asking him how he's getting his views so high already.
Maybe,
So I
yeah.
know that you haven't. Yeah.
No, I definitely don't know him. That's for sure.
That's funny. Stevie Richards' one I sent you was when John Moxley got tombstone for real twice in a row.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah. No. No.
So, yeah. AEW took that video down.
I heard,
They
yeah.
struck him, yeah.
I
Crazy.
heard. Moving on. What's the next question?
So we have a very loyal viewer from day one, or listener from day one, from Kuwait, and
Cool.
and I always thought like never misses an episode. I see it on the stats. It's one same person every time from the city in Kuwait, and I was just always wondering, oh, I wonder who that is. And now he reached out. Aziz from Kuwait asks you, what match did you play a part in that you'll just never forget? And we want to give Aziz a shout out for being so loyal from day one.
Oh, thank you, Aziz. Awesome. Thank you so much. What is the one match that I won't forget?
Not
there's-
just one match, but like a match was something that you'll just never, something you took a part or you are a part of that you just won't ever forget.
there's a lot of matches, and obviously there's matches that you'll never forget just because of how good they were or how well they went. But that would kind of be the same answer along the lines of your favorite match or your best match. So I'm going to try and answer it a little differently. There's two that come to mind. When we did the first ever Jericho cruise, people don't know, Chris Jericho does a cruise ship sort of vacation every year. And the first year I was on it, and I did like 7 matches during the whole cruise. I was like busier than anyone else. And the last night was myself, Cody Rhodes, and Kenny Omega against Jericho and the Young Bucks. And I'd already wrestled Sami Callihan earlier in the night or day, where I think we ended up in the swimming pool, and just like I had to rush and get like, I'm trying to clean, and the guys are putting the match together, and I'm still like getting clean from being thrown in the pool. And then pretty much just went straight out there, not really knowing what was going on. But I actually think that was the first time where the fans sang Judas, because Jericho came out to Judas and the fans were singing it. But like, we're wrestling in the middle of the sea. I'm just looking out, and it's just like pitch black. And, we're wrestling on this cruise ship, on a ship in the middle of the ocean. And I was just like, damn, I'm with like some of my best friends and wrestling Jericho, who obviously I grew up watching, and everything else. So that really sticks out. That was just a really cool moment. It's like, wow, I've wrestled in a lot of countries, but never have I ever wrestled in the middle of the ocean. So that was pretty cool. And then another 6-man tag, funny enough, it was in Japan. It was myself, Cody Rhodes, and Hangman Page wrestling Tanahashi, Jushin Thunder Liger, and Rey Mysterio. So legit, like 2 of my favorite wrestlers of all time in Rey Mysterio and Jushin Thunder Liger, and then Tanahashi as well, who's like also one of my favorite wrestlers to watch, and one, an amazing and incredible wrestler, and obviously a complete legend in Japan. So just me being able to be in there with those 3, and it was funny when it came to call the match, everyone was looking at me to like put, what are we gonna do, Marty? And I'm like, you guys are legends, but they're like, no, you tell us, Marty. I'm like, okay, So that was pretty freaking awesome. Just having Ray and Jushin Thunder Liger, 2 of probably the 2 best junior heavyweights of all time. Of course, in Japan, I'm a junior heavyweight. Just 2 of my heroes, just wrestling them at the same time. And like that match, it just shouldn't, like, if you see the picture of Tanahashi, Liger, and Rey Mysterio, everyone's like, when the hell did this happen? It just feels like it should have never happened, but it did, and I got to be a part of it. So that one certainly sticks out.
Super awesome. Yeah. Cool. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Aziz. Final question for today. Cavache? I can't pronounce that. I'm sorry, but it is in
I know what you're talking about.
Lower cases. So yes. I guess it's pronounced like you would in italics. Cavache? Favorite match of the modern era, Martin?
Oh boy, you're going to put me on the spot there. I wish I had some time to think about this. Off the top of my head, actually, maybe that on that Wrestle Dream the other night, Zack Sabre wrestling Bryan Danielson, I thought was absolutely tremendous. I loved it, and I assumed everyone else would have loved it as well. But I heard some people, I think I heard Billy Ray on Busted Open saying that he didn't like it. It wasn't for him. I'm like, what? I thought this match was just absolutely phenomenal. So that match I really enjoyed. And to be honest, if you're thinking about it, you might not have enjoyed it. Maybe I'll get you to watch that match and see your opinion on it, because I loved it, but it seems quite sort of, what's the word?
No tables.
There's no tables. No. Yes, it's a wrestling
just
contest.
Honest wrestling. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
What's on the poster? Wrestling.
Right.
So that I really loved. Honestly, I know this is going to sound, I might get some heat for this, but the Logan Paul versus Roman Reigns match I thought was just absolutely phenomenal. And another one I thought was tremendous was I think it was WrestleMania last year, Charlotte Flair against Rhea Ripley. I thought was just
that was
absolutely
good.
tremendous. So that's
Cool.
at the top of my head. I'm sure there's been better ones, but that's just the first matches that come to my mind.
Very good. So we've just ended on some really good matches in your recent memory. Do you fancy kind of doing the opposite now?
Well, we will, but there is something else I wanted to tell you.
Oh, yeah?
Of course, now that we're massive Instagram stars, I'm keeping my eyes on the numbers. And our Del Rios fake Scott Steiner reel is getting close, just on Instagram alone, close to a 500,000 plays. And that's just on Instagram. I think on YouTube, it's over 100,000, and TikTok, it's up there as well, I want to say. So, we're getting close on Instagram. By the time you listen to this, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have 500,000 views on the Del Rios reel. And it got me thinking, to celebrate us nearly or maybe already hitting 500,000 views on one reel on Instagram, for today's top 5, I thought we would do top 5 imposter wrestlers. What do you say, Sam?
I reckon we should. Shall I go first, or do you want to go first? You always go first, and I don't want to make you do that all the time, but maybe you love it.
I always find yours funnier than mine, so I don't want to.
Oh, mine are terrible this week.
Okay, you go first.
Okay. This isn't like my kind of area of expertise, so I don't really have any kind of stories behind them. I don't even know who half of them are, the actual wrestler behind the character.
Yeah.
I've just tried my best. These are ones that just, I thought I'd go by the ones that just come to my head and then try and rank them. So number 5, I do have fake Undertaker, because on our very first episode, we saw chains, didn't we? And
we did,
you told me that he was the fake Undertaker. So, and that stuck out. So I thought, as a nice little homage to our first episode of this podcast, I'm going to throw Mr. Fake Undertaker in at number 5. Of course, my honorable mention of number 6, it's got to be Del Rios for the whole point of us doing this. He's got to be in there.
Yes.
And thanks for the views. But my number 4 is, I'm putting them together because I just feel like they go together. The fake Diesel and the fake Razor Ramon.
Of course.
Because you have to have them, right? How can you not have them? And it's just kind of funny how one of those went nowhere and one of them went everywhere. So, because one of them is Kane, right? The fake Diesel was Kane.
Correct. Yeah. Glenn Jacobs.
Yeah. So my number 3 is actually funny. I've got fake Kane, because I just find it hilarious that this wrestler came in like as a fake Diesel. And then he went on to do so well that he actually later on has a fake version of him. I just thought it's kind of poetic and kind of funny.
That is
a fake
funny.
Kane. I had to Google. I don't usually Google stuff, but I had no idea who fake Kane was, and I Googled. So that was interesting. So it's Luke Gallows?
Yes, yeah. I think they just did it for... I think I wasn't really watching wrestling at the time, but I think it was a similar situation to the Undertaker versus Undertaker match. They kind of did the same thing years later where a fake Kane popped up. They had one match at a pay-per-view, and that was done and dusted.
So I can just, I wasn't really watching it at the time either. And I can just remember the hair being off. And it was like, if you get a non kind of movie replica quality mask of like Michael Myers or, a character, and it's just something off about it. That's just, that visual sticks in my head, which is why I put him in at number 3. Number 2, I've got the fake Sting, the fake Surfer Sting. Do you remember that?
Which one?
What do you mean, which? Oh, I knew you'd do this. There's 2.
Well, I think a bunch of people have done. Like,
What?
Didn't Jeff Jarrett wrestle as like Surf? He dressed up as Surfer Sting, and Mr. Anderson did it in TNA. I think there's actually way more than that even. Yeah, a bunch of people have done that. That's like one of the go-to.
Is that like saying doink? It's like which? Yeah.
Right. Which one are you referring
never
to?
knew that. Well, I don't know. I thought there's only one. I'm gonna have to Google this. Yeah, I promise you.
So there's a fake Sting. The fake Sting was Jeff Farmer, but that was fake Crow Sting, not fake Surfer Sting. The one that was in the NWO fake Sting, that was like Crow Sting.
No, I can very clearly picture a fake Surfer Sting.
Well, yeah, other wrestlers are dressed up as him, but I don't necessarily think there was like a fake one. I don't think so.
I'm so confused. All right. Can we just move? I'm embarrassed. Can we just move on with
You can
life
have-
and move on to my number one?
You can have Jeff Farmer, the fake Sting.
I'll have Jeff Farmer. I don't even know
Actually,
who that is.
There's a funny story about this. So the fake Sting, I think his name was Jeff Farmer. I hope I'm right. He wrestled, he was part of the NWO. And I guess he went on a tour of Japan and they legit sent his flight ticket and it just said NWO Sting on his flight ticket.
What, like under the literal name? Like
They put his actual name in as NWO Sting. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's definitely a pre 9/11 story.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Come on then. What's your number one?
Powers of Pain.
Ooh, okay. I think we can give you that. That's a big debate.
Okay, I knew
years.
you'd get funny about that. I knew you would. And I actually had another person, but I thought you'd get funny about that. And I shut them out. I don't want to say who they are in case you have them. I don't want to rip off your limelight. But yeah, Powers of Pain, when there's such a rip off to the point you might as well call them an imposter, because they are almost like an usurper. I understand why I may not have filled the assignment correctly with this one, but for me it's so blatant that I'm going to go ahead and just say outright imposter.
It's funny because people would always say that Demolition were sort of a rip-off of Legion of Doom.
Yeah, they kind of are, aren't they? Yeah,
but I always
different
thought
enough.
they're different enough. But I always thought, no, the conversation should be the Powers of Pain were rip-offs of Road Warriors, because they literally just the exact same deal, really, right? The hair and the makeup and the muscles and the tag team and just everything. So I think I'll give you that one.
Thank you. Yeah, I struggled this week, I'm going to be honest. So let's hear it. Let's have the professional do it.
So top 5. Number 5, Fake Mankind. Now I'm referring to Midian when Triple H was feuding with Mick Foley, the feud that you love so much. So you probably did see this at one point. Triple H would have Midian come out dressed up as Mankind and kind of berate him and everything else. So I thought, yeah, we'll throw Midian a bone, put him in the top 5.
I remember. Whoa! I thought that was, we may be talking about a different thing, but during their feud, there were some backstage segments, and I thought the crying, like fake sniveling Mankind was always X-Pac.
No,
that was Midian.
Yes.
Okay, never knew. That's insane. I honestly thought the whole joke was he's getting his boys to mock, so it'd be one of DX.
I didn't think. I mean, that may have happened, but I think it was Midian. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
We have to go back and do some research, but
that's incredible if true. I just always my whole life just assumed it was X-Pac.
Midian.
Wow.
Yeah. X-Pac did steal Kane's mask and wear that sometimes, but yeah, that was a few years later.
Maybe that's what I'm getting confused with.
Possibly. So number 4, this might be a little controversial take. The Nature Boy, Buddy Landel. So I'm assuming you don't know who Buddy Landel is. If you have a chance, Google him. He was called the Nature Boy. He had hair like Ric Flair and he dressed like Ric Flair. And he was a wrestler back in the NWA and everything else. I'm not sure of the origins of this, how he ended up with the same exact gimmick as Ric Flair, or even who had it first. I assume Flair had it first. And it's crazy because there was a pay-per-view when Landel was set to wrestle Ric Flair, like Nature Boy versus Nature Boy. I don't think it happened, but yeah, anytime I see Buddy Landel, I'm always just like, how did this happen? How is he, he even wrestled sometimes in the same company as Ric Flair, and he looks just like him. I mean, maybe not facially, but he has the hair, the robe, the gear, and he's called the Nature Boy. So that I always thought was very, very odd.
I'm just looking at a picture of him now. It's kind of, if you're going to let me have Powers of Pain, this is even more, the fact that he's got the same moniker.
Well, he's got the same name, the same gimmick.
Literally the same.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just, that's nuts, really, isn't it?
Yeah, we should watch one of his matches after this. But
yeah, it was a good wrestler. I'm just showing, look.
From afar, that looks like Ric Flair. Yeah,
that's hilarious. Wow, was he a good wrestler? I don't know.
He was
about him.
He was a great wrestler. He was awesome, and it was always a shame that he didn't get a chance. But I think he had his, as with many cases with pro wrestlers, he had his sort of demons get in the way. So unfortunately, it didn't work out for Buddy Landel. But he was a great wrestler. Okay, so number 3, you're definitely not going to know who this is. Um, but again, I'm trying to be a bit creative with my top five.
Yeah.
It's a wrestler by the name of Franz Schumann. Okay.
Nope. No idea.
Franz Schumann was a Austrian wrestler that spent most of his time wrestling, I want to say, in Germany. But of course, I watch a bunch of obscure wrestling and everything else. And I came across this Franz Schumann match because I was actually searching for Doink the Clown matches. You know how much of a fan I am
Yeah.
of Doink the Clown.
Totally.
And for whatever reason, this Franz Schumann is wrestling dressed up completely as Bret the Hitman Hart. Right? Go on YouTube now, type in Franz, Franz. Schumann is Schummann, and you can put versus Doink. It should come up right away. He's got Bret Hart style hair.
Oh, Christ.
And he's wrestling. You've got it up? Because I was watching it. I was like, what? I didn't realize Bret wrestled for the CWA in Germany at like this time period, wrestling Doink. Then I'm like, hang on. This is
amazing.
It's so bizarre. It's
Wow.
so bizarre that you have this. And this is during the mid-90s. Bret's with the WWF. And I guess there's just guys outside the WWF wrestling as Bret Hart, but his name's not called Bret Hart, but there he is. You can see here, he's just dressed up completely as Bret the Hitman Hart. He even has a similar physique. He's got the same hair, everything else. He didn't change his name, so it's not a tribute act as such, which we know were popular in the UK, but for whatever reason, he's dressed as Bret the Hitman Hart. So, and it's
that's absolutely crazy.
Joint the Clown, and I have no idea which Joint the Clown that is either. I'm not sure if that's Ray Apollo or if maybe that's an imposter Doink. Maybe that's a German wrestler wrestling as Doink. I don't know. But yeah, Franz Schumann. I assume I'm pronouncing that correctly. I know that's not my strong suit on the show. But he comes in at number 3. Number 2, a man that I'm shocked was not on your list. I'm going for Gilberg. Dwayne Gill.
I was thinking of doing that, but I decided he's kind of like, it's so intentional. I was going to say, if I took him out because he's so intentionally trying to be a piss take, then why did I keep the fake Undertaker in? Who's blatantly trying to. So, yeah, I'm surprised I didn't.
It was a parody, I guess, but we're gonna allow him for this list. So yeah, Gilberg.
I think we should.
I never really understood Gilberg when I was young. Bearing in mind he came around in 1999, and so I would have been sort of 10. I just was kind of confused, like why do they have like a Goldberg little rest? I just didn't understand, but yeah, I guess that was their shot at WCW. And coming in at number 1, the Renegade.
Never heard of him.
I'm judging by your silence. You don't know. So basically, during the mid-90s, WCW were billing basically that a warrior was going to come into WCW, and basically they even had like a silhouette which looked just like the Ultimate Warrior. And when he finally debuted, everyone was expecting the Warrior, and it wasn't the Warrior. It ended up being this guy they found that kind of looked like the Warrior, and they gave him the Warrior's same gimmick, but they called him the Renegade, or just Renegade, I believe. Are you pulling him up now? Have you seen him?
Yeah.
Right.
This is pretty funny.
Pretty funny. So Renegade, I guess they'd promised Renegade like a big push, and he was going to be a big star. And I guess they thought that this was going to be like the next Warrior. And clearly the fans just saw right through it and just completely crapped on it. And it just did not work out for him at all. And also, it didn't really help that he wasn't that good in the ring. I mean, I know Warrior wasn't either, but Warrior had that connection with the crowd, So, yeah, they tried to push him quite big at first. Didn't really work out for him. And unfortunately, I guess after his WCW run, he went into like a severe depression and he in a bad sort of financial situations. No other companies were making offers to him. And he died of when he committed suicide when he was 33 years old. So really sad.
Yeah, really sad.
Really sad case. Yeah. I always thought, bring him up on the show. Do you know what I mean? Let's remind people of.
Yeah, I had no idea. That was completely new to me.
Well, I think if we go back and do some more WCW reviews. I want to do like the mid 90s. I just hope our audience is into that. Let us know if you want us to do some mid 90s WCW, and we'll get to see the Renegade because I don't know, it just kind of brings you back to it's nostalgic for me, you know.
Right.
So yeah, that was my top 5 imposter wrestlers.
Very nice. I had a Animal and Hawk ripoff as my number 1. You have an Ultimate Warrior ripoff. I had a Sting ripoff, and I'm just thinking, wasn't there like, didn't they kind of basically rip off Animal and Hawk as well? Ultimate Warrior and Sting. Do you remember?
Correct.
That? I can't remember their name.
Yeah, the Blade Runners.
Oh, was that their name? That doesn't ring
I think
a bell.
so. Yeah. Sting and Warrior started off as a tag
It's
team.
just kind of funny because they're kind of like a bit of a same like archetype as Animal and Hawk, but then they themselves went on to have imposters of their own.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I guess it comes down to if someone wears face paint, it's easy to be an imposter of them. You thought there'd be more masked wrestlers in this. Well, I guess we had Kane and Mankind.
Well, I was going to have Black as my other number 6, but I thought you wouldn't allow Black Tiger for being like a, but he's more of like a rival, isn't he? But still kind of like a, I don't know.
Different wrestler, I think. Different wrestler.
Fair enough.
Well, there we go. That was our top 5 segment of the week. And you know what, Sam? After that top 5, after doing all that thinking, it made me just want to relax and listen to some music. Mm-hmm. And now I know that we all use Spotify, we'll use Apple Music, everything else. Let me ask you this. What sounds better? What sounds more sweet than listening to your music on an old school record? There's
legit
no
LP.
better feeling.
Yeah,
legit
there
LP.
really isn't.
You know, we keep it old school here on the Chillin' With The Villain podcast. That's why our new sponsor, Finders Keepers Records. Yes, you want to get yourself some records, you want some LPs, 45s, 12-inch singles, get yourself down to Finders Keepers Records. They have everything, not just what I've mentioned, like thousands and thousands of used LPs, cassettes, CDs, equipment such as turntables, speakers, receivers. They have everything. It's an absolute gold mine, like a hidden treasure chest of music goodness. And like I said, when I want to unwind, there's nothing I like more than grabbing one of those old LPs, putting it on the record player and just mwah, chef's kiss.
No, you got it right this time.
I feel like I had to get it right for
the read.
For the read.
To respect the read.
So Finders Keepers Records. You can find them on Instagram. Finders_Keepers_Records. They're no longer in the La Quinta, rather in a new secret hidden paradise. So hit them up on Instagram one more time, Finders_Keepers_Records to book your appointment now. You might even have to use a secret password to get in there, and go check out Finders Keepers' crazy, insane collection. Oh, it's unbelievable. And even more exciting about Finders Keepers Records, they're getting ready to open their new location in Old Town, Indio, which opens in November. So I know for one, I'm going to get myself on a plane, hop over to Indio, and pick myself up some classic records. I just can't wait. I'm so excited about this new partnership that we have with Finders Keepers Records. They're constantly getting in new stock. And guess what? Their prices are the very best in the whole entire valley. So find Finders Keepers Records on Instagram, hit them up, book yourself in an appointment, and get yourself amazing LPs, records, singles, whatever you want. Finders Keepers Records. We find them, you keep them. Please pay before keeping.
Very nice. Marty, do you have any nice little LPs, any records stashed away at your place that you have particular affinity for? I know you were given like quite a treasure trove reasonably recently, weren't you? Any gems in there?
Yes, I have a whole bunch of records from Japan, basically like wrestling Japanese records. So I have
cool.
I have some on my wall. I want to put the rest up. I got pro wrestling super fighters themes. I have the All Japan main event at record, all this really, really cool stuff. So Yeah, I'm a big record guy. Like I said, I've always been into antiques. I don't know, I'm an old soul at heart. That's obviously why I appreciate and enjoy the classic wrestling sort of much more than anything else. So yeah, but no, very excited about our new partnership with
Mhm.
Finders Keepers Records. So you and I, Sam, will definitely gonna have to make the trip there to his new store and yeah, celebrate the
Have a browse, yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
celebrate the new sponsor of the show.
We're good.
So I guess we better get to it. I've been trying to put it off.
We've run out of things to.
We're trying to put it off, but I know you people want to hear about it. Here it is. Heroes of Wrestling. The date is October 10th, 1999. The city is the Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, and the venue, Casino Magic. We have an attendance of 2,300. And this show, would you believe it, was on pay-per-view. Yes, yes, the worst pay-per-view of all time. We're about to find out. They said, okay, before I get you to guess the buy rate, Sam,
Oh god.
let's give some backstory to this Heroes of Wrestling show. So,
Yep.
dude, the year is 1999. Wrestling is at its peak. It's the peak of the Attitude Era. The WWF is doing insane business. WCW, it's gone down a little bit, but they're still doing crazy business. And also, we've got the third brand, ECW, as well. And wrestling is just hot, especially in North America. Hot, hot, hot. So, playing off this resurgence in popularity of pro wrestling at the time, there's a gentleman named Bill Stone that ran a company called Fostone Productions.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he's a businessman. He'd done a bunch of stuff, and I think he'd done some pay-per-views before, not wrestling. I think he did like Tough Man contest pay-per-views. But
Okay.
basically, because wrestling was so hot, he was like, you know what? I should jump in on this and I should just run a wrestling pay-per-view. And he came up with this idea of having sort of a series of events consisting of wrestling stars from the 1980s and the early 90s fighting each other in a series of dream matches. And he expressed that he was so surprised that the WWF had not already put on such an event. I think he later finds out why they had not done one like this. His plan was to run sort of a whole bunch of more pay-per-views for a year, and the initial target for the pay-per-view buys for show one was 40,000 buys. Before I get you to guess, actually, Sam, he did actually a great job, Bill Stone. He got backing for this show. I think he managed to raise I've seen two different numbers, but between $300,000 and $350,000 to run this first pay-per-view. And bearing in mind this was in 1999, so
Right.
that would be like what, double that now or triple that?
Probably,
like
yeah.
that.
Probably double, yeah.
Probably double. So he managed to get a whole bunch of money to run this show, and he managed to get a whole bunch of cable providers to show this. He also took ads out on like Monday Night Raw and WCW Nitro. So yeah, so
serious.
they put a lot of stuff into this. They really
Yeah.
did. So the buy rate, before I go any further, you might as well guess. What do you think the buy rates came in at?
Like under 10, like 8,000.
So I was actually pretty shocked at this. This obviously kind of demonstrates like how much promotion he must have done, because somehow they still managed to get 29,000 buy rate, which is pretty insane.
Wow. Okay, not bad. Not bad.
I mean, this also, you're bearing in mind, this was in 1999 when like wrestling was hot as hell. Do you know what I mean? Like super duper hot. So, and they spent a lot of money on promotion. So
yeah,
it must have fooled 29,000 people into buying this pay-per-view. So going into the show, they'd already had a bunch of problems. I guess there was a bunch of different legends that they tried to get hold of. And bearing in mind, the year is 1999. There's WWF, there's WCW, and there's also ECW. So the majority of good talent is already signed up to these larger companies. And if they're not signed, there's a reason why. Not only this, but for whatever reason, they had booked Gordon Soley, who's like a legendary wrestling commentator, to do the commentary. And I guess he had to pull out like on the 11th hour. So what Bill Stone did, he ended up putting a gentleman named Randy Rosenblum in for commentary. And Randy Rosenblum had done a bunch of sports commentary before, I think things like football and everything else, but knew nothing about wrestling, nothing whatsoever. So Dutch Mantel, who I guess was a big part of this as well, sort of had 24 hours to try and fill Randy Rosenblum in on wrestling to then commentate on a wrestling pay-per-view. Some of the wrestlers they contacted to be part of this event that did not want to be involved were Vader, Terry Funk, Psycho Sid, I want to say maybe Nick Bockwinkel as well. But yeah, a bunch of the guys did not want to do it. And obviously, this show is what we're left with. So the show, bizarrely...
You know I'm smiling though, don't you?
Why?
It's called Heroes of Wrestling, and it's supposedly really bad. So I went and I was going to make us bingo cards, but instead I made a checklist of things that, based on just the name, the expectation is that it was a bad pay-per-view, things that I was expecting to see. And I didn't know who Randy Rosenblum was. And I've got random/nobody commentator, and I was going to ask you, I can tick that off now. So I'm basically, I've only got 2 unticked out of 16 of these tragic things that could happen in a pay-per-view. I've only got 2 unticked, so that's why I'm happy. I'll reveal it later.
Well, do you want to read them all out now before we get into the show? Give it to me. Show me your bingo list for this show. What you're expecting to see on this legendary show.
Okay, first of all, I have WWE style intro, but with no quality or punch to it. Second, an in memoriam somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Third, a wardrobe malfunction.
Okay.
4, a random/nobody commentator on the team. 5, this one, I'm just going to go ahead and spoil, because I'm just so happy that I got this right, was off-strip casino venue.
They certainly had that, yeah.
And so imagine, that excited me. That was so funny when that actually came true. Next, I have wrong move name called out more than once.
Oh boy, yeah, okay.
Okay, this one, I just heard that this happens in wrestling, but I've never seen it, and I've always wanted to. Inebriated talent. Now,
oh boy,
no spoilers, but will it happen? We'll find out. Next up, little bit sad, but talent past their prime. Just the title, I just knew that was going to appear. Technical difficulties.
Oh boy, yep.
This one sounds very specific, but we've actually seen these multiple times in the past when it comes to talent past their prime. It's a messy tag team match that's low energy and hard to read.
Hard to read. God.
Next, I have local sponsor.
Yeah, like us with Finders Keepers Records.
Right. Next, I have a backstage segment/promo discussing Heat despite being a single or one-off pay-per-view with no history. Next, I have a weirdly specific crowd sign.
Okay.
The next one I have somewhere a referee F-up or mistake.
Okay, yeah.
And then finally, because I knew it's a pay-per-view, they'd have little elements on screen, a typo or an alignment, kerning, font, or element mishap.
So now, it's safe to say that your hopes weren't high for this pay-per-view.
No, it wasn't at all. And I had one more that I then deleted, and then it did happen. So I don't want to add it in and pretend I ticked it off. I did delete it, which was merchandise that is just the logo of the event on a standard black or white cap. And I thought, no, that won't happen. So I deleted that, and then it happened straight away, and I was really bummed. So you can decide, listeners, if you will give me that one or not. So we'll see as we go through how many we end up ticking off.
Well, Sam, it sounds like you probably got a lot of these. So let's see how many of your bingo list you actually got as we get into the show. So, boom, the show starts with a weird video package. Basically, this is very, very bizarre. It compares the impact of this show, Heroes of Wrestling, with the impact of Hurricane Camille, which was a hurricane which basically almost destroyed the whole city completely, and I believe killed like over 250 people. And they're comparing this show to have the same impact as that hurricane. And there's this whole video package where they're showing the hurricane in action and all this stuff. It's the first thing we see for this pay-per-view.
And I'm sorry, did you mention that Hurricane Kirill happened in the same state where they've set this? So it's literally people have been affected. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it happened in the late 60s or something.
Yeah, it's like 30 years ago. It's 30 years before this pay-per-view. Yeah.
I'm sure there's some metaphor there, but I
don't think there is. I mean, maybe.
It's very bizarre. So we see that, and then we get into the show. Go on.
Would you say that's a WWE style intro, but with no quality or punch?
I don't think WWE would do something like that, but yeah, I guess.
No, because we had Invasion, it had like the military theme. They try and always kind of associate it with either like a force of nature or an act of war or something. All right,
I can see that.
One down.
I can see that. Okay, one down for your list. Boom.
Excellent.
So the first match, we see the Samoan SWAT team of Samu and Fatu. Is it Fatu? With Paul Adams, who the hell is that, and Sika defeat Marty Jannetty and Tommy Rogers in 10 minutes exactly. Now, they build this as the Samoan SWAT team, and they're calling them Samu and Fatu, where it's not technically false. So, of course, Fatu from the original Head Shrinkers is Rikishi, and this is 1999, so he's running high with the WWE at this point.
Right,
This Samoan Savage, I believe, is Rikishi's cousin or brother or something. His real name is also Fatu, but he's better known as the Samoan Savage or the Tonga Kid, and he teams up with Samu here. So the Samoan SWAT team, whatever it is, they take on Marty Jannetty, obviously one half of the Rockers, and Tommy Rogers, who was one half of the Fantastics. Marty Jannetty, this is like the best.
Good.
The best, no, not he still looks good. This is like the best shape he's ever been in. Like, he looks incredible. He's super jacked here. Very, very odd. They just randomly in the peak shape of his life in this terrible, terrible pay-per-view. In 1999, he'd had so many chances before this and somehow decided to get in the best shape of his life in 1999, when unfortunately, I think he burnt too many bridges by this point. Actually, before I talk about Marty, because there is something else I want to mention, should say this. This show is scattered with complete nobodies being asked to manage on this show. There's like 3 or 4 different matches that have managers where the managers aren't, I'm pretty sure they're just like friends of the promoter. They're like, oh, you could be a manager. This show, which is called Heroes of Wrestling, which is supposed to be like the legends of wrestling,
like celebration of the legends. Yeah.
Right. The first guy we see is this complete nobody called Paul Adams doing a promo, like a generic heel, cheap heat promo. That's how the show starts. It's so bizarre why they'd want to start this show with that. But I guess that's kind of a theme throughout the whole entire show. But yeah, you know what's funny? So for the entrances, first of all, the Samoan SWAT team come out and they put the graphics up for Marty Jannetty and Tommy Rogers as they're coming out. So that might be on your list already. Really bizarre. The Marty Jannetty graphic, they don't just have a promo picture of Marty Jannetty. It's like a cut picture of Marty Jannetty doing like a slingshot on Shawn Michaels, clearly a picture from the WWF. So it's just like, it's just Marty Jannetty and you just see him holding Shawn Michaels' leg. And this is his promo picture for the graphic for some strange reason. Like, no expense spared for this production. Also, the stage, the lighting is so bad and the smoke machine is so much where the wrestlers come out on the stage and you cannot see them.
It just faded to white completely.
And
they had to then cut to and they had to cut to like a wide angle so you could see them coming out because it just blew out the camera lens.
Dude, so 2 things. Marty Jannetty, it's funny because when it said the Rocker Marty Jannetty, I was thinking to myself, man, isn't it such a shame that after Marty left the Rockers, he never did anything else like different other than the Rockers gimmick. He never tried to reinvent himself, didn't try to change his gear. Here, for whatever reason, he's wearing like a pair of like black denim shorts, or I think they
yeah.
are. Right. He's wrestling in different gear, but I don't think this was him trying to reinvent himself. I'm pretty sure he must have just forgot his tights, it seems.
Does that mean I can tick off wardrobe malfunction?
There's something later in the show, I think, where there's a wardrobe malfunction.
Oh, yes. All right.
I'm not sure if you noticed it, but
no, because I got that unticked.
Well, I don't know if this was purposeful or not. I don't know what Marty was doing, but yeah. But anyway, this match, to be honest with you, this match, it was pretty damn terrible. In fact, it was awful. It was pretty much a typical lazy house show, spot show match, but on pay-per-view. Like the start of the match happens and like it's like ding ding ding, and like Samu like climbs up on the turnbuckle to do the boo yay kind of spot, like boo, yeah, like it's pay-per-view. You gotta, when the bell rings, we need to see action. That being said, it's still probably like the second or third best match on this whole entire pay-per-view. Marty Jannetty works really hard in this. I say really hard, harder than everyone else. Tommy Rogers was a good worker back in the day. For whatever reason, does nothing in this match. Marty Jannetty's still 39 here. He actually looks pretty good, Marty does.
I think so.
Yes. But yeah, this it's funny to watch, and you hear Dutch Mantel on commentary trying to sell this whole thing, like saying this show is a once in a lifetime deal, which I guess he was right about.
Yeah.
During this match, it becomes quickly obvious that Randy Rosenblum has no idea what he's doing. He's
right.
He's well, out of his depth. He calls a arm drag a slam takedown or a reverse slam takedown. He calls, or maybe it's later in the show, but he calls a drop kick a
leg drop,
and he also calls it a flying leg kick, which I guess
he does, which is kind of like literally as you read what's happening. It is, but yeah.
No, a leg kick, like you can't kick with anything else.
Right? Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like he's technically correct. So that allowed me to tick off both random / nobody commentator and wrong move name called out more than once.
And we're like 5 minutes into the show.
I know.
Got a bunch of stuff to tick off. But yeah, what do you think of this match, Sam?
It was not good, but I will say this, and I never expected this to happen.
I know what you're going to say.
This pay-per-view had something I've been looking for since we started this podcast, a good thing, and I've never seen it done better on any other part of this podcast. I finally got to see somebody do a good TKO. On this Heroes of Wrestling of all things. I was like, what?
That might be like the only wrestling move on this whole entire show.
It's the only wrestling move. And yeah, this was by far the highlight of the pay-per-view for me. So yeah, finally. Who was it? Was that Samu?
I believe Samu did it. I can't remember which one.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, he did a TKO and it actually looked good.
Yeah.
Which has never happened on the podcast yet. So it's funny, I'm happy about that.
Start of the pay-per-view, we're just like, start the show with a bang. Oh, heels over. Great. Like heels come out, heel promo.
Yes, yeah.
You beat up the baby faces, beat them with a TKO. Okay. Great start to pay-per-view. It's also worth noting just like the production values of this are just not good. Like it's
of course, yeah.
We're watching that. So if you do want to watch this show to accompany this podcast, someone has uploaded the full pay-per-view onto YouTube, but the quality is not very good. Obviously, it's taped on a VHS and then whatever else that managed to get on YouTube. But that aside, just the production values, are just not good at all. So it is kind of hard to watch. But speaking of not good, the camera cuts to an earlier shot of George the Animal Steel. Dude, it's 1999. I don't think we need to see George the Animal Steel. He enters the building alongside Sensational Sherry, who I think here is called Sensuous Sherry, I want to say. Both he and the camera keep focusing on her dress, which he then opens up, and the two of them disappear into a side room. Then we pan to a backstage area, and Sherry cuts a promo on how much of an animal George Steele is. Then he makes a quick appearance, ready to fight.
When he came out during her little backstage segment, he did make me laugh out loud, the way he just appears out of nowhere. Bro, that was funny, but what's going on?
They're trying to tell this storyline basically where, I guess we'll get to it, because George Steele, who here is age 62, is going to
Yeah.
wrestle Greg Valentine. Dude, I think I should have said this from the start. Like, the year is 1999. So they actually called the show, originally they wanted to call the show Legends of Wrestling.
Mhm.
And I guess someone suggested that Legends of Wrestling made it sound like it was going to be a bunch of old farts wrestling. So they changed it to Heroes of Wrestling. And I completely disagree. It's like, no, you should have just called it Legends of Wrestling. Because if you call it Legends, then they kind of get a pass. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, they're legends. Okay, they're not going to be as good as they used to be, but they're legends. We'll show them appreciation. You know?
Yeah.
And the year is 1999. This the sort of height and the peak of the Attitude Era. It wasn't until years and years later, I don't feel like people really had this appetite for nostalgia. 1999, it was like nostalgia sucks. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes, totally.
We've seen a few Attitude Era shows now on this podcast where like they did the NWA Invasion, for example, and it just like did not work whatsoever. There was not really an appetite for nostalgia, and even if there were, if they were going to do this, they needed to present it the way I would have done it. Is presented the wrestling like the old territory days, but with like newer talent, kind of like how Jim Cornette did with Smoky Mountain Wrestling. He still had a handful of legends like the Rock and Roll Express and Bullet Bob Armstrong, but it still had new talent, but he presented it like classic territorial wrestling. So it wasn't like the kind of shock style of WWE booking at the time or the swerve booking of WCW. It wasn't all these silly storylines and chair shots, all this kind of stuff. But instead, they decided to get all these old wrestlers way past their prime who shouldn't be wrestling, just putting them out there, just trying to be
Take
like, oh,
off my list.
They're wrestlers, like, and it's like this compared to, dude, like on WWE, we've got Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and Mick Foley and Triple H, and WCW, we've got Goldberg and Diamond Dallas Page and Sting. And it's like, dude, this next match is George Steele with Sherry Martel taking on Greg Valentine.
I know, man. Jeez,
Bro,
Louise.
Greg Valentine, guess how old he is here?
Oh, is this going to be one of these things where I just say he's like 17? You're like, bro, he's like 35. I don't know. He looked, I don't want to be rude.
He looks old as hell.
Yeah, he looks old as hell. Are you going to tell me that he was 42?
So he wasn't 42, but here, Greg the Valentine, he already looks like 70 and he's 48. Yeah. He already looks like 70 and he's 48 years old here.
Yeah, he looked 48. Bad. Real bad.
And George Steele is 62. George Steele always kind of looked the same, but
that's anyway, kind of true, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. So Greg Valentine defeats George Steele with Sherry Martel in 6 minutes and 37 seconds. Dude, when I was
terrible
writing down all this stuff, I was like, dude, this was 6 minutes and 37 seconds. It felt like an hour. It felt like they do nothing for a start. They do nothing. They're trying to tell the story where Sherry Martel has like made George Steele think that he's into her, and then she turns on him in the match. She actually hits him in the head, I think, with the chair for the finish behind the referee's back, and Greg Valentine beats him. Dude, this for a second match on a pay-per-view, like the first match was already pretty damn grim. This was just terrible. Just
absolutely awful. Yeah.
Greg Valentine has the like the taped up like foreign object, which just looks like a spoon,
like a wooden spoon,
like a wooden
mixing spoon with tape on it.
And the whole match, he's like using it, and it's just, oh, bro, it was at this point where I was like, dude, am I gonna have to take a break after like every single match? Like, this is gonna be a real struggle to get through this pay-per-view.
So I don't, as you know, like I don't really try and snack. I try and be as like healthy as I think I can. After this match, I paused it, went to the gas station, I got some chips, and I came back because I just thought I have to kind of reward myself and slot out. I did, and it was after this match. One thing I'm going to say that's positive about this match was you're complaining that they're all fake, not real managers. So at least we got Sherry.
Yeah, and I love Sherry.
Good. Me too. So at least we saw a real manager. Did you notice Greg Valentine comes out to no music whatsoever?
There was
half of the talent comes on where they have no music and they just walk down to silence.
On a pay-per-view in 99?
On a pay-per-view, yes.
Dude. Oh, we should also say, so the first match started with that random manager doing a heel promo.
Yeah.
And then this match started with Greg Valentine doing a generic heel promo as well. It seemed like every match started with a generic heel promo. Also, second match in a row where the heel's gone over as well. So
yes,
it's like,
correct.
These fans are just, it's worth saying. So this show is done in this casino. And
Yep.
they reported they had 2,300 people there, but it was heavily papered. It doesn't seem like there's any wrestling fans in the crowd. The whole crowd seems like it's just been people like
Who are already staying at the casino
at the
or
casino.
something.
Yeah,
It does.
exactly.
Yeah,
They do not look like they want to be there, and obviously I can't blame them whatsoever. But yeah, it was nice to see sensational Sherry. I always feel like she's criminally underrated. Like people don't really talk about her enough. I was like, when I was doing my notes for this, I was writing like Sherry should be in the Hall of Fame. And then I Googled it and she actually is in the Hall of Fame, but I guess I just don't talk about her enough. Like it's not like she gets merchandise or anything else like a lot of the other legends do. But I love Sherry. And here, she's only 41 years old and she still looked great here.
She looks incredible.
Else.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's always been one of my favorites. So
yep.
I don't know why they decided to pair her up with Greg Valentine and George Steele, but yeah. This was
God damn. Can we move on?
We can. So moving on, we're actually going to see one of the few young talents on the show as we see a backstage interview with a wrestler named Julio Fantastico, who is better known as Julio De Niro. He was best known for his tag team run in sort of 2000 with Easy Money in ECW. And then he also
I don't remember.
Did some time in TNA, the early days of TNA he teamed up with, I want to say CM Punk. He was a part of Raven's Flock, the TNA version. But here he is doing a backstage interview. The first 10 seconds, there's audio issues. You can't hear what he's saying. And then he goes on to kind of...
On the list.
Yeah, there we go. He goes on to cut the most generic heel promo. Basically, his whole promo is, I'm the best. But the funniest thing I thought he said in this promo was, I'm going to win every match I ever wrestle ever again. I was like, wow, that's like
like a kid would say.
Yeah. I mean, so apparently, I guess,
man,
I want to say that they had someone come in to book the matches, and Bill Stone didn't want this next match to be on the card, but whoever was helping book it was saying, listen, we need to have at least one match with younger talent, so the matches aren't so slow and everything else. So
I actually had that on my list, like a young talent match trying their best despite everything, but I actually took that off and then it happened, so there's another one I missed out on.
Well, so that leads us to our next match. Too Cold Scorpio defeats Julio Fantastico in 9 minutes and 37 seconds. Now, I'm sure many people listening to the show are aware of Too Cold Scorpio. I always try to work this out, like, because I remember him being in the WWF in 98, and I want to say very early 99. So he was part of the Job Squad at this point. This is later in 99. So I don't know why he left the WWF or if he got fired or whatever. But here he is. The biggest thing of note of this is, for some reason, Too Cold Scorpio comes to the ring with a replica WCW World Heavyweight Championship title belt. I have no idea what this belt is supposed to be, what it's supposed to represent. They don't mention it at all on commentary, but completely random, just comes out, replica, a super cheap looking WCW World Heavyweight Championship replica belt. He looks like a fan.
Right, yeah, like a bit of Walmart merchandise.
Yeah, so bizarre. But yeah, this was, like I said, this was a match. Two youngsters, compared to the rest of the card, going at it. Nearly 10-minute match. They did an all right job. That being said, it still wasn't great, but it probably was the best match on the show.
Yeah. And Captain Lou came out from nowhere to join the commentary team halfway through or at the start, I remember.
So apparently he was
different.
Yeah, apparently Lou Abama was supposed to be the commentator for the next match, and he just came out early. So he just came in halfway during this match. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Clearly just no rules for this show whatsoever. Just this whole show, it's supposed to be a pay-per-view, and everyone is just treating it like some low-rent indie spot show. Dude, this Too Cold Scorpio match, they keep doing shots of the crowd, and the crowd is just looking bored and dead and bored. They do not care. Did you see at one point Julio tries to do this like flip over dive onto Scorpio?
Right. Did he Yeah, I was going to ask you about this. Was he trying to do this? Did he try and do that and he fluffed it up and then try to redo his spot and do it right the second time? Or was he trying to do two separate moves and Cold Scorpio didn't perform? I didn't understand what was happening.
I don't know what he was trying to do. He
Right.
like flips over the top rope, hits Too Cold Scorpio with his legs,
Yeah.
doesn't let go of the top rope, and then like skins the cat back in the ring. So I don't know if that was supposed to be like part of the spot or just maybe Too Cold wasn't in place, so he held on. I kind of almost feel like he was trying to come up with a new move, but it didn't really come across very well.
Right. All right.
And that kind of also the finish, Too Cold Scorpio hits like a perfect like moonsault leg drop or flipping leg drop on Julio.
Yeah.
He nailed it, then decides to go up and do another one, but like a corkscrew version, and just completely misses Julio De Niro and then covers him for the 3.
And he covers him anyway, and he gets the 3 count. Yeah, it was right. Yeah, wow. Still one of the better matches.
No, probably the best match.
Yeah.
Dude, I thought Too Cold Scorpio looked, despite the cheap replica belt, I thought Too Cold Scorpio looked like a badass here. And I was like, why do you not have this sort of gimmick or look when he was in WWF? He might have got over more, I was like, he looked kind of cool, huh?
Yeah, I thought so. I always liked him as well. So
yeah, after this, he kind of ended up having like a career resurgence in Japan, working for Noah. He teamed up with Vader. They were a tag team, and they did really had a great run in Japan.
Oh, that's cool.
It's always a shame, I feel, that Too Cold never really got a sort of good push in North America. He did the Flash Funk in WWF, and he was, I want to say, tag champ maybe in WCW with Buff Bagwell and stuff. But and he also did a lot in ECW, but he never really seemed to be able to get a big push in North America in terms of the big companies anyway. So I always thought that was a shame because I've always been a fan of Too Cold Scorpio.
Same.
There we go. So you mentioned Albano being there for the commentary. It's like halfway through this match, like Rosenblum announces that Albano has been named the commissioner of Heroes of Wrestling. And that suggests that there's going to be more Heroes of Wrestling shows. And Lou Albano, he sells this like he's super excited, and then he decides to try and sell this company. He's asked, what's the future of Heroes of Wrestling? He says, this is a quote from Captain Lou. He says, this is the greatest production of all time. The greatest organization around. We'll have great matches, great pay-per-views. He's pretty carny, huh?
For sure.
He just loses all credibility. Look at this show. It's just absolutely awful. And he's calling this the greatest organization around in 1999. Good Lord.
And then we have this match, to completely undermine his point even further.
Oh boy,
a mess on our hands,
dude. This
match made me angry. Yeah,
this is. I think this and the main event are really in the conversation for worst matches of all time.
Let me remind you before you call it out that one of my things on the checklist is messy tag team match. That's low energy and hard to read. So maybe it will be ticked off after this.
I think messy is an understatement.
Oh,
so,
man.
Here we go. Butch and Luke, formerly the Bushwhackers. A 54-year-old Butch and a 52-year-old Luke defeat Nikolai Volkov, age 51, and the Iron Sheik, age 57, who looks about 100, in 8 minutes and 42 seconds.
8 minutes, 42. Oh, man, really? Are you serious? I guess that doesn't include the bit at the start where the Iron Sheik gets 2 poles that you'd see outside of a cinema or something and just starts waving them around his head. But that felt like forever. Only 8 minutes 42. That's nuts.
Well, I forgot to mention. So back in Sheik's sort of younger years, he used to have those clubs that he would wave above his head, and they were, super heavy. And that was a really hard thing to do. And the fact that he could wave these clubs above his head was seen as an amazing feat of strength. Here, I guess he forgot his clubs because it literally just looked like 2, I don't even know what you would call them. Just what they look like? Like when you're in line and
Yeah,
You know,
and
what I'm
they
trying to
they hook
have like the
ropes
belts.
in them.
Yeah. He's like two of them. I don't know what you'd call them. He's just like waving them around his head. And of course, Nikolai Volkov does the Russian national anthem. So
National
this is
anthem,
like the third match where we've got like heel promos before the match. Dude, before we actually get in the match, you know, Sheik's doing his whole like puh USA puh spiel, and the crowd do chant USA USA, even though they're wrestling Butch and Luke, who are from New Zealand. So
New Zealand.
that's kind of funny. Dude, I can't even start to express how bad this match is. These
Right.
men, especially Sheik, especially Volkov, and the Bushwhackers, but the Bushwhackers look like good wrestlers compared to Sheik and Volkov here. They should not be anywhere near a ring. This was just so embarrassing. The best bit of the match, we see the worst backbreaker of all time, and the commentary, they perfectly call it. They say soft slam. Soft slam there from Nikolai Volkov. A soft slam. Do you remember that part? He gives him like the worst backbreaker. He picks him up and just like places him down.
Everything was so
on his
tepid.
He picks him up and just places him down on his knee like a newborn baby. It was just hilarious. And then for commentary to go, soft slam, I just thought, call it how you see it.
Mate, it was...
Also, the commentators kept calling, I think Rosenblum kept calling the Iron Sheik the Iron Curtain.
Yeah, and do you know what's kind of funny about that is, if you remember when we did SummerSlam 1991, you said that the Iron Sheik shouldn't really be anywhere. Well, you said around a main event at that time. But that was 1991.
That's 8 years later.
Yeah. Yeah, the Iron Curtain. I forgot about that. That was hilarious.
What? How did you even get that mixed up?
Damn. Anyways, mate, like, well, imagine trying to call that and sell it.
Dude,
that must be a tough gig.
Like Dutch Mantel,
Jeez
he was a great wrestling mind and a great wrestling booker, but just, it probably killed some of his credibility trying to call this match and trying to keep it straight. Do you know what I mean? How can you not just laugh at this? Just awful. So it's funny, actually, because we go from like one of the worst things on the show to absolutely by far the best thing on this whole entire show. So we go backstage again and we see an interview guy try to approach Tully Blanchard. But before Blanchard can say anything, Stan Lane, sweet Stan Lane from the Midnight Express, attacks Tully Blanchard, and for whatever reason, he tries to shove him into the
trunk of his
limo.
car. Yeah.
So, which was kind of, I don't know, they're trying at least. They're trying. It then cuts to another like earlier today's segment where the surprise attack happened with Blanchard. Anyway, Tully Blanchard cuts an absolutely terrific promo on Stan Lane here, which
he can act.
Dude, I don't think he's acting. He's reacting. He's treating this as a shoot. Tully Blanchard was a pro. He was an amazing wrestler, and he cuts this promo on this completely garbage, terrible pay-per-view that did not deserve this fired up, amazing promo. They're billing it here, saying this is Blanchard's first match in 10 years. I don't think that was actually true, but either way, that's the story that they're telling. And he tells that story so well in this promo. He's like, 10 years boiled up, like the anger. He mentions like Dusty Rhodes and he mentions Jim Herd, who he hates. It's like all this stuff boiled up. You've just brought to the service. I'm like, dude, I was watching this promo. I was like, holy hell, man. Like, this is an awesome promo. I wish I could do promos like this. Like, and obviously with him, it was like, I assume they were just like, oh, Tully, can you cut a promo? And just like, boom, like that, could just do it off,
super good.
The top of his head. Like, unbelievable promo. What a shame that it was for this pay-per-view. It did make me think, God, I want to watch the match now. Unfortunately, the match didn't live up nowhere near to the promo, but Tully Blanchard, what a pro, huh?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Shocking how good. Yeah. I actually wrote down that promo knowing that you would bring it up, how good that was. When I was watching it, I was like, Marty is going to go nuts for this.
Oh, it's a fantastic
This was your TKO.
Yeah, exactly. This was the only highlight of the show, for sure. And I guess that led into Tully Blanchard defeating Stan Lane in 7 minutes and 4 seconds. Now, despite that being an amazing promo, and despite both these men being amazing workers back in their prime, of course, Tully Blanchard, a part of the Four Horsemen, a part of the Brainbusters tag team with Arn Anderson, and Stan Lane, a part of the famous Midnight Express with Bobby Eaton and, of course, Jim Cornette as the manager. They kind of tell that story here, the Four Horsemen versus the Midnight Express. But yeah, this match, not a good match at all. Tully Blanchard is 45 here. Stan Lane is 46. And Tully Blanchard was always an amazing worker, and so was Stan Lane. I don't know why this match was not good. I guess they just realized what this pay-per-view was and just did not try. I don't know. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't awful. Stan Lane, again, the match, of course, like every match on this show, starts with a heel promo.
Yeah.
Stan Lane's doing his stick and he calls himself the gangster of love and everything else. The match, yeah, kind of slow and plodding. The funniest part of this match, which is just really funny. Remember, like during the Attitude Era, when Val Venus would come out to the ring and he would do his spiel, and they would keep cutting the cameras to shots of women in the crowd, like going nuts. Well, they're trying to do the same thing here with Stan Lane, because they're trying to say that Stan Lane is a ladies' man and everything else, which apparently in real life he was. So they're talking about that. They keep cutting to shots of women in the crowd, but they don't look excited. They don't look like they're having a good time. They just look so bored and like they'd rather be any place in the world other than here.
It's absolutely stone-faced, want to get it over and done with. Yeah, that made me laugh so much. And the thing is, they never learn. So someone in the back's going, cut to the audience, cut to the audience. Like the first time I cut to the audience and they look like that, I'd be like, we're not doing any more of those shots. Jeez.
What do you think of this match? Have I covered
what do you think that I'm going to say about this match?
Two old men just plodding around the ring.
Well, actually, I've got to say, they're kind of fast in the ring off the ropes and stuff. I was actually shocked that they're faster than...
God, compared to the last matches and stuff. Yeah.
But the
finish.
The finish was like the infamous one with Hawk, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Where they're both got their shoulders down and 1, 2, 3, one of them had the shoulders up. I just started getting flashbacks to that Hawk incident.
For people that haven't watched this show, Stan Lane gives Tully Blanchard a back suplex where both their shoulders are down. The referee's counting, and before the 3, Tully Blanchard lifts his shoulder up. So I guess he broke the count, but Stan Lane's shoulders were still being counted. So Stan Lane jumps up, thinks he's won, and the referee's like, no, Tully Blanchard had won. This went down like a wet fart. No one got it. Everyone was confused. This is clearly one of those like old school territory spots where like neither guy wants to job, or maybe it's more of a case of like, oh, we'll do like a not proper finish so we can come back for a return match. You know what I mean? One of those ones rather than just beating the guy, flat from the get-go. But it did not work. And dude, if this really was Tully Blanchard's first match in 10 years, like what a waste, because he truly is a wrestling legend.
Yeah, I know. Stan Lane took some time off as well, right? I assume hasn't been wrestling full time up until then. Maybe he did. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think he had. I think he was off, right? Like his sort of peak was more like the 80s, so.
Because I got this kind of idea that he was like, okay, I've been off for a bit. I need to come back and I need to be a ladies' man. I know. Chris Candido looks good. I'm just going to try and do a copy of his freaking style. Did you notice that?
Well, he had the blonde, but he was always
short
blonde.
Crop.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I don't actually know who he is, so I just thought he'd try to look like... I'm looking for imposters after the Del Rios thing.
You've already done the list. We're moving on from that. We got to Stan. We'll have to watch some Midnight Express matches at some point. One of the greatest tag teams of all time, dude. Okay, we've got another possible worst match of the night as Abdullah the Butcher, aged 58, takes on the One Man Gang.
Oh my god!
Which ends in a double count out in 7 minutes and 34 seconds. Bro, question for you. How old do you think the One Man Gang is here?
Oh god, I don't even know who he is. I'm gonna say he's young, like 35.
Oh, well, you ruined the thing. He's 39.
39.
He
Okay.
looks old as hell. He looks like
No,
he's
he does.
50s.
He does. But that's. I don't want to be rude, but larger people. He doesn't look like the most physically fit guy in the world, so I reckon they would
Right.
age him.
Yeah.
But yeah, and his look, he tries to look as disgusting as possible. So I knew that was like hiding something. I'm clocking onto your tricks, Marty.
Yeah, you're supposed to. When I asked you the question, how old do they look? Is what you're supposed to answer, not get around it and try and answer it and be clever.
Okay, I'll stop being clever. Yeah, he looked old, Marty.
I'm like, how old
That's
does he look? And you're like, well, I think you're going to be say it's younger than it actually is. It's like, yes, that's
the segment.
that's the point. That's the bit. Sam,
That's the part. Yeah.
Dude, whoever booked this show, because they're advertising a main event of Yokozuna versus King Kong Bundy. This literally is like a kid is booking it. Like clearly, you have someone like Abdullah the Butcher, who's 58 here, who's a big ass man. He's like,
Right.
I know, let's put the fat guys together. No, like they're not going to have a good match. Like that's not, if you got someone like Abdullah the Butcher and you want him to wrestle, okay, put him in there with like your best worker that can maybe work around him. Don't put him in with another big guy that can barely do anything. This match, Abby starts bleeding within like 30 seconds in the match. Halfway through, one-man gang starts bleeding. They're basically just brawling and bleeding and kind of plodding along together. Apparently, when the promoter or what's the guy's name, Bill Stone, did his research for this show, he just went to a few independent shows and he went to an ECW show and he put this match on because he wanted to appeal to the hardcore wrestling fan base what he'd seen at ECW. So these guys have a hardcore match, and they basically Abby just stabs him with a fork, and that sounds
like
better
5
than it
minutes,
is.
yeah.
For like 5 minutes, and they just brawl and bleed everywhere. It's kind of disgusting, and also apparently
for all the kids and the mums.
Exactly, it's just like kids and mums,
Yeah.
and apparently like Bill Stone's company, what is it called again? It's is it Fostone? They didn't realize that the blood in wrestling was real. They're running a wrestling pay-per-view and they don't realize that blood in wrestling is real. They obviously didn't know that blood comes from guys cutting themselves. So I guess they were like disgusted and everything else with this match and just was like, they all freaked out when there's, big two fat guys bleeding everywhere. I sound kind of bad saying two big fat guys. It makes me sound like I'm disrespecting.
But they are.
Abby. Well, they are.
I mean, it's Abdullah the Butcher, for Christ's sakes.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So yeah, this was just, dude, yeah,
messy.
another just a minus 10-star match, just awful. Apparently, I don't know if he did, but I was watching one video and they said that Abdullah the Butcher, this was years ago, but was trying to sell his Hall of Fame ring. I don't know if he ever sold it or not, but we spoke before about Sonny selling.
Yeah, I want Sonny's. I wanted Sonny's, didn't I? Yeah.
Sounds like you can have a collection of Hall of Fame rings.
That'd be pretty cool.
Also, it was about a few years after this. You probably don't know this. It's a pretty famous story, but Abdullah the Butcher got sued because he was doing all these matches where he's bleeding everywhere, and he got sued years later because he had hepatitis C.
I've heard about this. Yes,
and he knew about it. And during this match, he's like fish hooking one-man gang with the fork, which is already covered in blood and stuff. And it just made me, knowing what we know now, just made me cringe like insanely.
Absolutely disgusting.
Oh, God.
What am I going to catch off of that ring? I'm probably safer with Sonny's, and that's saying something. Can I say that? Oh, I should skip that out.
Something that I wish I could have skipped. The next match. God, here we go. Jimmy Snuka, age 56. I
forgot about this.
With Captain Lou Albano. Well, there's no surprise. There is something in this match which is actually funny, but defeats Bob Orton, age 48. He looks super old here. In 11 minutes
I know.
and 46 seconds. Bro, nearly 12 minutes. Again, 56, 48. The interesting sort of snippet of this match, this is the battle of the WrestleMania 1 main event cornerman. So Bob Orton at the first ever main event, he was in the corner of Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff, and Jimmy Snuka was in the corner of Hogan and Mr. T. So kind of interesting story. But yeah, this match just, dude, Snuka, like, I've never actually really been a big fan of Jimmy Snuka, and I think it's because I never really watched him in his prime. It was just always like him older and stuff. But dude,
yeah,
you have someone like Jimmy Snuka who's 56. Don't put him in a 12-minute match. Like, We saw him on the show like 2 weeks ago. Where
Yeah.
it was 2005. Obviously, he was older, but they had him as a
Eugene.
legend and with Eugene. But they just had him do like a couple of chops, and then he managed to do the splash still. Like that's how you use a legend. Don't put him in a 12-minute competitive match like on freaking pay-per-view. Like, oh my god, so embarrassing.
Yeah, they start off. Is this the one where they try and start it off as if one of them cheated at cards, and it's like a top-down backstage,
Correct. Yeah.
reenactment? It was weird.
Yeah,
It was really
it was.
weird. I completely forgot about this match, despite watching it this morning. That says everything. I literally have nothing to say. I can move on from this.
I'm surprised you.
Sorry,
You know,
go on.
the crowd, like the crowd's like dead the whole entire show. And then I guess during this match, they realize that they can start chants and stuff. And they start a chant throughout this match where they're saying, Bob is a F word throughout like this whole match. And at some point, like the commentators like heal the crowd out as well. Like, oh, they shouldn't be questioning his sexual preference or something like that. But they legit just say the hard F during this whole match. It's pretty
Mate, I forgot
alarming
about that.
to listen to. Like you're just like, whoa, that's crazy, right? Just geez.
That happened to me yesterday in Cheesecake Factory. Did I tell you this? You know, I always wear these pink Crocs.
Oh jeez.
Apart from that, though, really nice. I really like the Cheesecake Factory. I'm definitely going to go again.
Yes, amazing cheesecake. Well, Cheesecake Factory, my only gripe with it is like it's the biggest menu ever. They have so much on the menu, and it's just too overwhelming.
Like a phone book, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like too much choice. I'm like, I don't like that. It's too much effort to look through a whole thing. I don't like that. I just want the cheesecake one in there anyway, to be fair.
Okay.
Well, the other thing about this match on commentary, they say, I think it was actually Randy Rosenblum says that the guys now have to wrestle smarter now because everything hurts more. So they're trying to cover up the fact that nothing's happening, but it's just like putting the point home even more so.
Yeah.
Like at one point on commentary, Dutch Mantel says something, I think it might have been early on in the show. He says like, just because these guys aren't in the WWF or WCW, like doesn't mean that they're not good or something like that. I'm like, you're just hammering it home that's exactly
say nothing.
Like, say nothing. Don't mention that.
You're protesting too much. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So Snooker at the end, like wins, right, with the splash or whatever.
Crossbody, yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So it beats him so badly, you could swear that they share an apartment.
Oh, jeez.
I thought that's a pretty good joke, no?
I guess so.
Moving on.
So next up, the historical
man.
Jake the Snake promo. This promo, people have probably seen it. I'm sure it's been covered on like Botchamania and stuff. I'm sure most people have seen it, don't even realize it's from this show, but it's the Jake the Snake promo in front of the Casino Magic.
Casino Magic, yep.
In front of the Casino Magic sign.
Local sponsor.
Local sponsor. Well, yeah, it's actually the Casino
The
Magic.
local sponsor is the casino, yeah.
Right.
So on the apron, facing the main camera, they have it says Casino Magic and there's their phone number. And straight away, as soon as the first bell rings of the first match, Marty Jannetty knocks it over with his feet.
Goes
has
flying.
to like pick it back up again.
Yeah. So Jake the Snake is about to do this promo, and leading up to this pay-per-view, Jake had been very heavily involved in the promotion. And the story of this show was supposed to be basically Jake the Snake's comeback to wrestling, that he's got clean and he's doing this Heroes of Wrestling with the idea of helping to clean up wrestling because he's fought his demons and come out on the other side and everything else. So that was the idea leading into the show. And apparently on the day of the show, he relapsed. And he says the reason is because that his ex-wife had called him, told him that she knew he was getting a big payday for the show and that she owes him like $5,000 in child support. And if she doesn't get it, she's going to sue him or something. And that made him relapse. Now, apparently Jake had also used this story other times as well. So I'm not too sure how too true it is, but clearly Jake the Snake is absolutely drunk off his tits during this. He can barely stand. He's got his arm over the interviewer, Michael St. John, holding himself up. He's grabbing his hair and putting it over his head. He's a complete mess. And now Here's the lines. This Jake the Snake, who's known as one of the greatest promos of all time. This is what Jake the Snake says. You don't want to play cards with me because I'll cheat. Okay? I cheat. You want to play 21? I've got 22. You want to play blackjack? I've got 2 of those too. You want to play aces and eights? Baby, I got many of those too. Now, isn't 21 blackjack? Isn't it the same game?
As far as I'm aware, yeah, that's the point of blackjack. Yeah.
But what was like this promo just like he's trying to tie it in with the gambling because we're in a casino and everything else.
Yeah.
This just promo just made no sense, was just not good at all, and clearly just like pissed off. He's like, why? When you realize he was that drunk, just send him home. Sorry, guys, we've got a problem. And like, just a complete mess, dude. Like, just, oh man. I mean, it's going to get worse, unfortunately.
I was going to say, but they didn't. And his behavior gets worse.
It's so much worse.
So much worse. But yeah, so I've got inebriated talent on my checklist because I just was like hoping. And I honestly don't know anything about this pay-per-view. Like I said, I know like this has happened in the past. I think like there was an infamous incident with Jeff Hardy, I think, on TNA or something.
Correct.
So I know this happens, but I've never seen it in my life. And I've got my checklist; it's nearly complete. And I was thinking, no, it won't be that bad. As soon as he comes out, imagine my face when I realize that he's pissed up, and I'm like, ding, ding, ding! Couldn't believe my luck,
dude. So the match is supposed to be Jake the Snake versus Jim Anvil Neidhart. And the main event was supposed to be Yokozuna and King Kong Bundy. And I guess at some point they realized that Bundy and Yokozuna as a main event would have been terrible because despite Yoko back in his day being like a good worker, at this point in 1999, he's like way over 600 pounds. He's just insanely big. And King Kong Bundy was never, the great worker as it was. So they decided to turn it into a tag team match. Also, another issue, Jim Neidhart turned up like 40 minutes before this match. He managed to miss 4 flights in the same day for this show to get there. And he basically refused, and I understand this, he refused to job on this show or job to Jake. And his reason being, I don't know if you remember, this is 99, the WWF had just brought back the British Bulldog. It was that run he had where he was wearing the jeans. And I guess Anvil was suggesting that WWE were interested in bringing him back and that they had told him not to job on pay-per-view. So he wasn't going to do the job. So they turned this into a tag team match. And apparently the guys going into this didn't even know what the finish was going to be or anything else. But the idea is that it's going to start as a singles match, Jake versus Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and it would turn into a tag team match. So before entering the ring, so Jake the Snake comes out to the ring.
Dude.
He puts his snake on the ring.
He doesn't put his snake on the ring. He totally manhandles poor Damien. Like,
the snake's in the bag. Yeah, I should say.
Yeah,
that.
But I mean, he doesn't treat him very carefully, does he?
He doesn't.
Jeez,
He does not.
Poor Damien.
So he puts the snake on the ring. He then like walks to the back, and everyone's like, "What's going on?" And then he comes back out from the back, and he's got his top off. And he kind of like runs to the ring. Dude,
gets this like middle-aged woman.
Yeah, makes this middle-aged woman grab his chest, his man boobs. It's so bizarre, dude.
Oh man,
dude,
and it gets worse. His behavior gets worse.
Well, he then pulls the snake out from the bag.
Yeah,
holds it to his groin where it
pretending
looks like,
it's his.
Yes, his penis.
Right. And he's like waving it around to the crowd of kids and moms, like kids. He's like shaking it as if and like.
Well, he's insinuating that he's jerking off with the snake. It's so bizarre. Like,
to an audience of kids and mums who already are done.
And then because that doesn't get any reaction, obviously, he then collapses to the floor and drapes the snake over himself, and he's like licking the snake.
Yeah, that is a French kiss. That's a kiss with tongues.
The funniest thing is we saw this, but they actually cut away a lot to the audience because it was on pay-per-view and they didn't want, Jake holding
this time, the cutting to the audience does make sense. After what I said earlier, I'm like, never cut to the audience again. As soon as I saw him staggering out, stumbling out down the ramp and doing that with the snake, I'd be like, actually, cut to the audience.
So this is, this show is most famous for this. This is obviously one
Right.
of Jake the Snake's. I was gonna say one of Jake the Snake's biggest low points. It probably wasn't, but like in terms of in public, like doing this on the main event of a pay per view, being absolutely hammered, no state to compete whatsoever. You can see Jim Neidhart just looks so pissed off. Neidhart tries, right? He tries to wrestle him. It's just awful and terrible. Jake doesn't have no idea where he's going. If you are going to watch anything from this show, you might as well watch this match because it's just a complete train wreck. Then Bundy comes out and starts to kind of attack Jake, and the crowd's just confused. Then Yokozuna comes out and they announce that it's now a tag team match. And there's this guy at ringside with them that they keep referring to as Little Bundy. It's this
the bald guy.
Yeah, this guy at ringside. And I was like, who is that? Who is that? And I was like, oh, is he like Bundy's manager or something? Then I was like, oh, maybe it's the promoter. Turns out it's basically one of the guys that was helping out with the booking. And basically they sent him out there to kind of like hold the whole thing together. And also because I guess Neidhart didn't want a job, so they were the heels. So to send the crowd unhappy, they wanted either Neidhart or Bundy to have the snake put on them. And they both refused. They both flat out refused. So I guess they sent this stooge out to get covered in the snake. But dude, what's bizarre about this is Jake is clearly in no shape whatsoever to perform. Not only did they send him out there, but also Bundy and Anvil just like take heat and beat up Jake the whole entire match. And Yokozuna just stood on the apron. It's like, you'd think they'd do the work with Yoko. I know Yoko's limited right now because he's like 600 pounds, but like they decide to keep Jake in the whole match and beat him up.
Yeah. And I'm kind of confused what you were saying. They kind of changed the event last minute. So it's now a tag match, right? So does that mean they didn't actually get the main event?
I guess not. Right? Yeah, they were billing the main event being like what was it, like the 1,000-pound battle or something? They kept referring to it.
I think the main event was supposed to be Yokozuna versus King Kong.
No, it was.
Unless Okay, so not only did that all happen, you also didn't get the main event you were promised. They just took the main eventers and put them in the match before with a drunk guy.
Exactly. Well, and the funniest thing is, dude, they beating up Jake. Dude, at one point, I don't know if Bundy got upset. I think it was Bundy. Maybe it was Anvil. They like smash Jake the Snake in their head, like an unprotected chair shot to the head on Jake the Snake. And it's like, dude, this guy's drunk as hell. Like, just get him out there. And they're there smashing him over their head with a chair.
The whole thing was
just making it 10 times worse.
Awful.
And then finally, Jake the Snake makes the hot tag to Yokozuna. Yoko gets in, does like 30 seconds, like beating on, I want to say, Anvil. During that, Jake the Snake's not even the legal man. Bundy just puts him down, gives him a big splash. 1, 2, 3. It was just like, what?
Yep. So referee F up. I tick that off. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you could blame that on the referee. I think that's a little unfair. Like, let's just get out of there, dude. But like, why could they? Like, why did they not just do Anvil versus Yoko? Do you know what I mean? And just Bundy, they could have had someone else come. I mean, there's a million other things they could have done in this whole entire show. It just, first of all, I think they need to present them all the matches more like Legends matches. They needed to really put over that they're like, I'm finding it hard to explain, but you present it all like this is a legend. They should have done, if they were going to do this show, they should have made it where it's like a night to remember the legends. They should have
more of a ceremony.
They should have given awards away, all this kind of stuff. Every wrestler on this show, or at least the legends on this show, should have had like video package. And I know they probably couldn't have footage, but they could use photos, whatever, and just explain why this wrestler is a legend and everything else, and then have them, maybe wrestle and show and demonstrate a little bit of what they can still do. And you present it like that, but rather than just kind of presenting it like, oh, this is like another wrestling promotion and these are our wrestlers. Like, this company had no legs from the get-go whatsoever. It's just a terrible, terrible idea. But this match, the numbers here are pretty funny. Jim Neidhart is 44 here. King Kong Bundy is only 41. He looks old as hell. Yeah, he looks way older. Jake is 44. He looks absolutely terrible. He looks better now. Yoko, bless him, is only 33 years old. This match, and this is not including the the stuff before the match and the after the match. This match was 16 minutes and 34 seconds.
Right.
Famously, this match, like I want to say, all the Meltzers and stuff gave this minus infinity stars, like considered like one of the worst matches of all time on pay-per-view and everything else. I'm sure there's been worse matches, but the fact that this is like pay-per-view and just everything this match,
and it's now your main event, I
represents.
guess.
Yeah, and it's the main event, and it's just Jake the Snake holding the snake as his penis. Just come on.
It was just the worst. It was just the worst.
And this
All
sort of
right.
situation happened with Jake numerous times as well at different indie shows and stuff. I guess this one stood out more because obviously it's the main event of a freaking pay-per-view.
It's
So
absolutely rancid. Yeah. Awful.
awful. And like I said, they wanted, to send the fans home happy. I think at this point they should have just given up. But Yoko grabs the heel manager, Minnie Bundy, holds him up and starts chanting DDT, DDT. And the crowd is chanting DDT. And he's holding him up to pass him to Jake.
Yeah.
And legit, Jake's just stood up, swagging around, has no idea where he is.
Mhm.
Yoko quickly realizes this and goes, he can't even do the DDT. So he decides to shoot him off the ropes and give him a Samoan drop instead, which is just so like he's there going DDT, DDT. He's like, no,
Actually,
Samoan
no,
drop.
yeah.
This poor guy as well that took the move is not a wrestler, had never done any training in his whole entire life. So just, randomly had to take a Samoan drop from a 600 pound Yokozuna.
And then have a snake draped over him.
And then they got the snake put on him. And legit, as soon as the snake was on the guy, they cut the cameras. It's like, let's just get off pay-per-view straight away. Safe to say, Heroes of Wrestling never ran any more pay-per-views. I think even if they had reached the 40,000 pay-per-views that they were, saying would be their limit, I don't think after this they would have ever run any more shows, because this was just a train wreck from start to finish. And the saddest part about it is because someone suggested, actually a handful of our listeners suggested that we cover this show on the podcast. And I thought, okay, it is the 24-year anniversary of this show. Let's give it a whirl. And I had seen it before, but I thought, I couldn't remember. I was like, is it really bad, or is it like so bad that it's funny, or so bad that it's good? I thought, are we going to have a good time watching this? Is it going to be really funny? It's so bad, like ha 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 ha. And like, unfortunately, no. It's not even funny. It's just depressing, boring, long, just no redeeming features whatsoever.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you think, I've heard that this is famously bad, it's all over the internet, maybe I should give it a watch for the laughs and stuff. Don't. Like, it's over 2.5 hours long, and nothing happens. Just don't waste your time. It's not funny bad. It's boring. It's just bad. It's miserable to watch.
It's like when people talk about wrestle crap, they talk about like the Shockmaster or like Gobbledygook or whatever. Like, that stuff you can find entertainment watching. Eat, right? This, you can't find any entertainment watching.
It's just sad. It's kind of sad.
It was sad
watching it. Yeah.
And the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking, damn, like all these people in the building that aren't wrestling fans, and like even like the commentator, wasn't a wrestling fan. And just thinking like, man, this makes wrestling look so bad. It just like makes wrestling to the average person
look like a friggin' joke.
Just look like a complete and utter joke. Just everything, like all the bad things that they think of wrestling, like, it's all phony and fake and just so rubbish or whatever.
It's just like on display.
Yes, like they watch this, like, it's all bloody rubbish. And like it was like, it just oh man, to press. I legit, after watching the show, I had a headache and I couldn't work out if it was from my toothache or if it was from watching this pay-per-view. It was that bad.
Yeah.
It was so bad.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we should even do a best and worst or like give it a star. Like, it's obviously like 1 or 0 star, whatever you call the lowest. It's not even any point. So to end, we have, for my checklist, you said there's a wardrobe malfunction in there somewhere. Where was that?
I was I was reading the comments on the YouTube video, and someone said, I didn't notice this, but someone said that Sherry Martel's like private parts were on display.
What?
Apparently so.
No.
That's what somebody said. It says 23 AT. you can see Sherry's bush.
Oh, for God's sake! All right,
2318. Let me have a look quickly.
Yeah.
No, for the sake of your list.
You're like, I've always really liked Sherry. No, you're like, okay, in 2418 you can see a bush. Let me just have a look.
Yeah, kind of. Well, it's very quick. I don't know if that counts as a wardrobe, but I take it back. I don't think she meant to do that, so maybe not a wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll take that one out then. So we have WWE style intro with no quality or punch. Tick. In memoriam. Tick. Gorilla Monsoon. R.I.P. Wardrobe malfunction. Jury is out. Random/nobody commentator Randy Rosenblum. Tick.
Nailed it.
This one though is bang on. Off-strip casino venue.
Correct.
Casino Magic, Mississippi. Tick. Big tick. Wrong move name called out more than once. What was it? Drop kick, flying leg kick for a drop kick. Leg drop. That was it. Yeah. Even I've done it. It's infection.
Reverse slam takedown for an arm drag.
Yeah. Inebriated talent. I finally got to see that.
Jeez. Yes, you did.
Big tick. Talent past their prime, kind of.
Big tick.
Name of the show. Big tick. Technical difficulties.
Big tick.
Big tick. Messy tag team match that's low energy and hard to read.
Big tick.
Thank you. Big tick. Local sponsor Casino Magic. Tick. Okay, this is one. I've got backstage segment or promo discussing Heat despite being a one-off or single pay-per-view with no history. Well, if you want to include Tully being thrown into the back of the trunk, we can have it. Then, all right, then there we go. So tick. Weirdly specific crowd sign. There was a guy that just has his literal phone number with the local area code. So that is how more specific can you get than someone's personal phone number? Tick. Referee F up. You debate this one because you're like, what else could he do?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll leave it out.
There probably was multiple.
There's probably some, yeah.
Loads.
And then typo or alignment or element mishap. Loads. Plenty. Okay. So maybe all of them. Maybe not wardrobe malfunction or a referee mishap, but at least 14 out of 16 I got right with no idea. I just went off of the name and the fact that it is legendarily bad, and I managed to get 14 out of 16. Not bad. I'm definitely going to. What we're going to do, if we ever cover more crappy pay-per-views in the future, we're going to use this same list.
Yeah. Okay.
Like a bingo thing.
We should. But like you said, there's no point us giving it a star rating. It's not worth even a star. There's no point doing best match and worst match. I think this show is just better left forgotten. And
I completely agree. I think it's best for everyone, for like out of respect for everyone on it. No, I'm being serious because they are actual legends.
Yeah,
that's like the most damning part. Like I actually I just want to forget about this.
I mean, the redeeming thing, Jake years and years and years later went on to clean up his life, and there was a redemption story with Jake the Snake. I mean, I'm sure you've heard about the documentary he did, the resurrection of Jake the Snake.
Yeah,
went and lived with DDP and got better. So at least there was a happy ending for Jake the Snake. And I think when he debuted in AEW, ironically, it was like one of their casino themed shows, and you see him debut, and he's like sat at like a casino table, maybe even playing blackjack. So kind of played into
blackjack or 21.
But that was Legends, not Legends of Wrestling. I've got the show wrong already. The Heroes of Wrestling, the pay-per-view from 1999. Wasn't too fun for us to watch, but hopefully you enjoyed our review of the show. And if you did, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or any of them. Just give us a 5-star review. That would really, really help us out with our algorithm and everything else, because we do this podcast for free. We do it for you. So, just give us a helping hand. We would really appreciate that. And at the same time, if you're not already, follow us on the Instagram at The Villain Pod, TikTok also at The Villain Pod, and of course, YouTube at The Villain Pod. So follow us on all our social medias. If you want to support me, I would really appreciate it. Get yourself some exclusive Villain merchandise at martyscale.bigcartel.com. I'd really appreciate that. And of course, check out our new sponsor of the show, Finders Keepers Records. Sam, I would like we need to think we need to do a good show next week. We're gonna have to do like WrestleMania 17 or something next week.
Do you actually remember? Do you? I want you don't. You asked what we should do. I mentioned WrestleMania X7, and we ended up for this week, and we ended up doing this. So yeah, I wouldn't mind. Yeah, it would be quite nice.
Oh, jeez. All right, Sam, you want to see us
All right,
out?
then. Yeah, and keep the questions coming because we really like reading them out on the show. So yeah, definitely keep them coming. We'll get through them all. But yeah, until then, have a good week. Till next week.